Well, here we are in part 10 of this video series that we've been in, the last part. And I got to be honest, I've been kind of putting this specific topic off until now just because of how socially charged this topic is. A lot of different people hold a lot of different viewpoints on this topic. And I just hope that you guys will watch this with an open mind and try to understand. So, with that said, we are talking about abortion. I hope you will press in and listen. So, without further ado, let's get into it. First, I want to talk to the Christians that believe that abortion is legal in all cases. Now, some of you might be thinking, are there really Christians that believe that? Sadly, yes. Yes, there are. And before I address this, I want to take this right off the top because some of you might be thinking, Alex, what gives you the right to even talk about this topic? You don't carry children. You're a guy. How would you know? Let me say this. It takes two to tango. A woman can't conceive without the guy. So the guys should have an input. It takes two to tango. And with that, if guys should have an input, you have this whole notion, the whole my body, my choice. Well, I'm going to submit to you this. You gave up your right to choose for that once you did the act, once you had sex. It is no longer just your choice. You are carrying a child. Because I personally believe that life begins at conception. So this is why it's important, and this is why it clarifies it in the Bible, that sex is supposed to be saved for marriage, in the confines of marriage. Because when you take it outside of marriage, it gets messy. And then people have sex, and they try to play God by doing all of these contraceptives and birth control, thinking that that's okay now that you can prevent that, which is not 100% preventable. You get pregnant, and then you're like, well, I'm not ready to have a kid. Duh. You shouldn't have even been having sex if you're not married. With that said, again, I want to focus on the Christians that believe that abortion is legal in all cases first. I will address the other ones, but first I want to focus on this. And I want to show you the percentages. I'm going to put this up on the screen. The legal in all cases is the dark blue. So unaffiliated, 46%, Black Protestant, 30%, White Mainland Protestant, 23%, White Catholic, 18%, Hispanic Catholic, 17%, and White Evangelical Protestant, 6%. Those percentages should be zero. There should be nothing in that column. Those that believe that it should be legal in all cases, have you not read the scriptures? Christians, so-called Christians, have you not read the scriptures? I'm going to remind you in case you haven't. Psalms chapter 139, verses 13 through 16. I'm going to be reading from the New Living Translation. I'm going to put this up on the screen. It says, "You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed." I want to focus on Verse 14. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. And then verse 15, I also want to focus on that too. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. Being formed in utter seclusion. That sounds an awful lot like life starts at conception. Life starts at conception. It doesn't start when the baby is born and it starts crying. It starts at conception. So, with that said, I want to focus now and shift gears to those that believe that, abortion is like my body, my choice. Those that aren't Christians, I want to focus and talk to these people now. Because the Christians that believe that it's legal in all cases, you have some praying to do and some studying to do and some earnestly asking God about whether what you believe is true. Because the scripture is really clear. Scripture is really clear. So, now, most people, I'm going to put this up on the screen. Most people, nearly 9 out of 10 abortions performed during first 12 weeks of pregnancy. First 12 weeks of pregnancy. Now, I want to put up this other picture that shows you at 12 weeks what the fetus looks like. At 12 weeks, nearly 9 out of 10, that's a lot of abortions that happen during the first 12 weeks of pregnancy, during the first 12 weeks. Now, there is this clip I want to show you, 2 clips actually. Dr. Anthony Levatino, he was testifying before the House Judiciary Committee, and he was talking about the D&E abortions, which is dilation and evacuation. That's what D&E stands for. But typically they're performed 14 and 24 weeks of gestation. But he was describing the process of how this D&E abortion goes. And it's quite graphic. He gets into really graphic detail. And I think it's really important that we hear this so that we know what's involved in this type of abortion and what's really going on. So I'm going to play for you this clip and just be prepared for it. So let's check this out.
We welcome our distinguished witnesses today. Do you and each of you swear that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And I'll now begin by introducing today's witnesses. The first witness is Dr. Anthony Levatino. Dr. Levatino is a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist. Over the course of his career, Dr. Levatino has practiced obstetrics and gynecology in both private and university settings, including as an associate professor of OBGYN at the Albany Medical College. And Dr. Levatino, we'll begin with you. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to get right to it. Second trimester D&E abortions performed between roughly 14 and 24 weeks of gestation. Your patient today is 17 years old. She's 22 weeks pregnant. Her baby is the length of your hand plus a couple of inches. And she's been feeling her baby kick for the last several weeks, but she's asleep on an operating room table. You walk into that operating room scrubbed and gowned, and after removing laminaria, you introduce a suction catheter into the uterus. This is a 14 French suction catheter. If she were 12 weeks pregnant or less, basically the width of your hand or smaller, you could basically do the entire procedure with this. But babies this big don't fit through catheters this size. After suctioning the amniotic fluid out from around the baby, you introduce an instrument called a Sofer clamp. It's about 13 inches long. It's made of stainless steel. The business end of this clamp is about 2.5 inches long and 1/2 inch wide. There are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. A D&E procedure is a blind abortion, so picture yourself introducing this and grabbing anything you can blindly and pull, and I do mean hard, and out pops a leg about that big, which you put down on the table next to you. Reach in again, pull out an arm about the same length, which you put down on the table next to you. And use this instrument again and again to tear out the spine, the intestines, the heart and lungs. Head in the baby that size is about the size of a large plum. Can't see it, but you pretty good idea you've got it if you've got your instrument around something and your fingers are spread about as far as they go. You know you did it right if you crush down on the instrument and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Then you could pull out skull pieces. And you have a day like I had a lot of times, sometimes a little face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations, you just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose.
Now, if you didn't consider that graphic, then I think you need to really look inside yourself and find out where's the disconnect. What's going on? Yanking arms out and limbs, how is that okay? How is that okay? Planned Parenthood is not a good organization. They try to promote or enable people to do this. No. Now, I have another clip where they asked him basically why he stopped doing abortions, what changed, and he kind of tells his story about what the catalyst was, the situation that sparked him changing and not wanting to do abortions anymore. And I really think this is also interesting to hear. So check this out.
One more question, Dr. Levatino. Why did you end your practice of doing abortions?
I did over 1,200 abortions over a 4-year period in private practice, not counting the ones that I did during my training. I met my wife during my first year of training at Albany Medical Center. We got married about a year later and found that we had an infertility problem. After years of failed infertility treatment and several years trying to adopt a child, we were blessed with adopting a little girl that we named Heather in August of 1978. As sometimes happens in those situations, my wife got pregnant the very next month, and we had 2 children 10 months apart. 2 months short of my daughter Heather's 6th birthday, she was killed in an auto accident and literally died in her arms in the back of an ambulance. Anyone who has children might think they have some idea of what that feels like, but unless you've been through it yourself, you have no idea whatsoever. I know people find it hard to believe, but what do you do after disaster? You bury your child and then you go back to your life. And I don't remember exactly how long it was after my daughter died that I showed up at Albany Medical Center OR number 9 to perform my first second trimester D&E abortion. I wasn't thinking of it as anything special. This was routine to me. But I reached in, literally pulled out an arm or leg and got sick. You know, earlier on I described stacking up body parts on the side of the table. It's not to, gross people out, to use a simple term. When you do an abortion, you need to keep inventory. You have to make sure you get 2 arms and 2 legs and all the pieces. If you don't, your patient's going to come back infected, bleeding, or dead. So I soldiered on and finished that abortion. And I know it sounds, as I said, hard for people to believe, but I'm telling you straight up my experience. You know, after over 1,200 abortions, first and second trimester up to 24 weeks and all the rest of it, and being very dedicated to it, for the first time in my life, I really looked at that pile of body parts on the side of the table. And I didn't see her wonderful right to choose, and I didn't see all the money I just made. All I could see was somebody's son or daughter. And I stopped doing late-term abortions after that, and several months later stopped doing all abortions.
Thank you.
Now I have 2 other clips to show you that kind of give you an idea of the people that push this wanting abortions. And one is Michael Knowles. He was talking at this university, and the student was trying to make a case for abortions. And look at what she refers to the fetus or the baby as. Check this out.
I think
that's what we're saying about
because our fundamental beliefs are different. I don't think it's murder. I think it's that thing in the baby, not the baby, but the uterus.
You just said
that
it.
is not,
I think you just admitted that I'm right. That's called a Freudian slip, and I think you just proved the point.
Chill out. But the thing in the uterus is not a baby. That's what I was trying to say. It's just a clump of cells. It's a tumor. Okay.
It's a tumor.
And trying to be like, it's a baby. We just have fundamentally different belief systems, and I don't believe that. No, I don't think it's murder. It's not murder.
Right,
It's not
but the
murder.
baby unlike a tumor, say, the baby in the womb, it has the DNA of an individual human being that's different from the DNA of the mother, and the baby in the womb has all the characteristics of human life, and the baby in the womb grows at a very early stage, grows to take on the form of an individual human being, and the baby in the womb, left unmurdered, will grow into a full adult-sized human being, just like you are. So that would seem to be a difference between the baby in the womb and the cancerous tumor. So you're saying, well, I just don't believe that, but you obviously do believe that because you just admitted it because you called the baby a baby. You don't want to acknowledge that reality because it's inconvenient. And I'm not denying that there are inconveniences in the world, and there's suffering, and there are all sorts of difficult decisions that people have to make, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a right and a wrong answer, and it doesn't even mean that you don't know what it is, because you've admitted that you know what it is.
No, you didn't hear that incorrectly. She really did say tumor. A tumor. Really? A tumor? You're going to refer to a baby as a tumor. Where's the disconnect happening? Where are they getting this idea, this information from? I mean, let me tell you something. My sister, now she was on the podcast. I interviewed her twice. But, recently she had a baby last year. And let me tell you, the whole process of the baby growing inside of her and everything, that is miraculous, okay? How there was no spine before, and the spine gets formed, the head, all of this stuff. It's incredible, the whole process. And then, it becomes a baby, a human being with fingers and toes and an arm and legs and a head and everything. That is not a tumor. That is a miracle. That is a gift from God. I have this other clip of this other student that, just listen to what they call a baby.
Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Sure, feel free.
Understanding the earth to be sacred from your point of view and various different species having the same amount of value, what do you believe is the difference in value between the human being cells that you acknowledge exist and the animals or plants or anything else that is a living being on the earth?
Animals are separate from our body and do not have a parasitic relationship with the person that they're inhabiting. So a cow.
Parasitic,
I
wow.
would call it parasitic, yes. They drain
They
resources.
are a parasite.
They
What
drain
would
resources.
you say to know that a baby in the womb is giving
A
antibodies
fetus.
to its mother
It's
to
a
help
fetus.
make the mother more...
Um,
Baby fetus, synonymous terms.
So
We've already covered that.
very-
So
I
a
would
baby in the womb helping the mother to become more healthy, exchanging stem cells, giving antibodies. It hardly sounds like a parasite that's sucking things away
So-
from you to me.
leeches give pain relieving things, so we could just argue that leeches are the exact same as a human fetus. A person who is pregnant is tired, they're exhausted, they're sick all the time. I would not want to force someone to go through that, and childbirth is one of the most traumatic and painful experiences a person can experience. Why would you force someone?
A parasite. Can you believe that? A parasite. So, where are these students getting these information? Where are they learning this stuff? From school? From their teachers? Online? For people that are trying to advocate for abortion? This whole movement of my body, my choice. If you separate or disassociate yourself with the fact that it's a baby, does it make it easier then for you to commit the abortion? These are questions that need to be asked and need to be wrestled with. And I know this video itself is not going to make a whole lot of people change and say, oh my gosh, you're right, Alex, you're right. But hopefully it makes you think. I mean, quite honestly, those people that call the babies a tumor or a parasite don't have kids. I'd much rather you not have kids. especially if you look at stuff that way. But I specifically want to tailor this towards the Christians that believe in abortion and the ones that aren't Christians that believe in abortion just because they think of the my body, my choice. I want to reiterate some stuff that I mentioned earlier. You give up that right of you making this decision solely on it being your body once you have sex. It is not just your body anymore. You are accountable for another life. You have to take into account the guy's feelings as well. If the guy wants to, keep the kid, like, he has a say. It takes two to tango. He has a say. And again, for the Christians, Psalms 139 is very clear, very, very clear. We need to really stop and think. Sex is supposed to be for the confines of marriage. That's the way God designed it. That's the way it should be. So anything outside of that is a sin. And why did he put it in the confines of marriage? Because when people are married, they are committed to one another. And when you're committed to one another, you're not going to make decisions like this. Like, say, for example, a married couple ends up getting pregnant and they didn't want to get pregnant. They're not going to abort the kid. They're going to take it to term. They're going to have the kid. They're going to make adjustments. They're going to raise this kid. Why? Because they're in a committed, married relationship. It might not have been planned. They might have wanted to do other things, but they're not going to abort the kid. The people who are getting abortions are the ones who are not in committed relationships, who are just trying to have fun, experience life, and do all of this stuff because it feels good. It feels good. Driven by emotions, driven by feelings. We have to lead our emotions. We have to take charge of our emotions. We have to think. We have to be wise. And again, for those that are on the fence about abortions because of situations like rape or incest, again, I want to submit to you another option. Instead of aborting the child, the baby, perhaps take the baby to term and give it up for adoption. If it's too hard to look at that baby and you don't want to raise the baby because it reminds you too much of the crime that was committed, the assault that was committed, give it up for adoption. There's a lot of people, a lot of couples that are trying to have kids that can't have kids. Take the baby to term. Have the baby. It is not just your body. When you get pregnant, it is not just your body anymore. You are accountable for that life. As the saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. You have a responsibility. Both people, the man and the woman, both have a responsibility. So make wise decisions. Make wise decisions. Don't just hop into relationships and sleep with anybody. Make wise decisions. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I truly hope that this helped shed some light on this topic or this issue. And thank you guys for tuning in and pressing in. So, until next week, just know that God is in control. And if you're going through something tough, like an unplanned pregnancy, don't choose the option of abortion. Reach out. Let people help. Reach out to the church. thank you guys again for watching. And until next week, be blessed.